Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
Arsenal and United faced off in a match that ended 3-1 to United, thanks to Antony, a Rashford double, while Saka scored for Arsenal. In our previous video, we looked at what Ten Hag did in possession, but in this video, we'll focus on Arteta as he did have some interesting plays. So without further ado, let's look at what Arsenal did against Manchester United. And since you're a fan of the tactical side of the game, why not try your hand at being a manager with today's video sponsor Spitch. Spitch is my fantasy football app of choice, as you can play for free but still win real money. Simply pick your 11 players for the team and pick a pitch to play on, and unlike other fantasy football apps who only care about goals and assists, Spitch also rewards stuff like passes, tackles and much more. And Spitch gives out prizes weekly so you can join in at any time. And with the brand new season mode, you can stand the chance to win a share of £50,000. So this is my team for the week, and you can join in the fun on Spitch for free by downloading it through the link in the description below. When Arsenal had possession, they were a little more willing to try and play out than United were, and at times they would form a back three as well, with Ben White staying deep. Or Ramsdale, who is much more comfortable on the ball, having a bigger influence in possession, to be the third man. But the Gunners were also much more willing to build up with the traditional back four shape, with both fullbacks staying wider initially. And many a time, Arsenal would be using a single pivot in Lokonga, allowing Xhaka and Odegaard to operate higher up the pitch. United used a fairly effective pressing shape that Ten Hag has been implementing since he got to United. Of course, Rashford was the centre forward, so he would pick up one of the centre backs. And in this game, it was Sancho who was tasked with coming from out to in to look to press the second centre back, whilst Fernandes was tying up the single pivot. Antony wouldn't necessarily stay wide, instead picking up this position where he could both press the centre back if they did try to come out, or move backwards onto Zinchenko if he was found with a pass. This would make it harder for Arsenal to play out, as both centre backs were covered as well as the deepest pivot. So here we see Ramsdale willing to be the third man, with Gabriel operating wider. But at the same time we see common United pressing shapes. Rashford was ready to press one of the centre-backs, while Sancho has also come from out to in to do the same. At the same time, Fernandes in behind them is looking to tie up Lokonga, whilst Antony from this inside position is ready to pick up a man wide or the centre-back. So with this pressing structure, Ben White is potentially the man who is free to receive. However, United may have been confident that this was too difficult a pass to pull off consistently, and we did see some occasions where Arsenal did go for this pass and Sancho was able to intercept, or if White did receive, he was under pressure. Again, Rashford is looking to pick up one centre back, while Sancho is coming narrower to do the same, meaning that White is free out wide. Fernandes, as discussed, is looking to pick up Lokonga. Antony's presence in this situation means that the easy pass out towards Zinchenko is not on, so Gabriel then looks to make the much more difficult switch out towards Ben White. But due to the difficulty of the pass, Sancho is able to intercept. In addition, United may have been comfortable with Ben White receiving at times, as he's much less of an offensive threat than Zinchenko, for example, with his passing range. And we did see Ben White have a lot of touches throughout the match. But the beauty of Arteta's Arsenal is the sheer number of shapes and solutions they have toward different problems during the match, so they could find their way out of this. The first way could be by switching to a double pivot. Zinchenko, as we know, loves to invert and is highly versatile, so he could move in alongside Zinchenko. And in these situations, Xhaka and Odegaard would push high, whilst Martinelli and Saka, both great one-on-one wingers, would keep the width. So now, Arsenal have two pivots to potentially find, and if Fernandes is picking up one, the other could potentially receive. As if pressed, there was the risk of then finding the man higher up the pitch. So with Antony's tendency to also defend more narrow due to the previously discussed shape, Arsenal could look to release Martinelli 1v1 with Dalot with a more direct pass, as he did have the pace advantage against him. But this was just one solution. We could see another summer signing in Jesus come to the fore. Zinchenko could stay much more wide as a traditional fullback, allowing Xhaka instead to be the second pivot. And in these scenarios, Jesus, as we know, is more than happy to operate as a false nine dropping deep to try and get on the ball, which is also helped by Martinelli being willing to play as a centre forward, usually in these spaces just outside the centre back. So now, where they looked light before, they have a 4 versus 3 advantage and can look to create passing angles to be found higher up the pitch and then progress. while Zinchenko could provide the width, making it difficult for Dalot to cover across. As a result, Jesus got a lot more touches than a forward usually does for their team. So this was the shape we discussed earlier, with Zinchenko becoming the second pivot, which then allows Xhaka and Odegaard to operate higher in the half spaces. This also frees up Martinelli to be wider higher up the pitch and be 1 versus 1 with Dalot to look to get into dangerous situations. And in this situation, we again see a double pivot, thanks to Lokonga staying deep, and now it's Xhaka who's operating as the second pivot, allowing Zinchenko to be a more traditional fullback. And already you see that Jesus has dropped deep, so that now Arsenal have more of a midfield box. So Fernandes is covering one pivot, whilst McTominay is covering the other, creating the slightest of passing channels down the outside. So Martinelli, who had pushed higher as more of an inside forward, is able to receive dropping, and we see that Zinchenko is potentially free to receive, whilst Jesus is tying up the third midfielder in Eriksen. Overall, it was a good win for United, but for Arsenal it wasn't a disaster, as they did show plenty of promise, as they have throughout the start of the season. For the managerial score, it was a close game, meaning that Ten Hag earns a 7, whilst Arteta walks away with a 6. But what are your ratings for these two? Drop them down below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might enjoy the content available on my Patreon. Not only does Patreon help to support the continued production of content, as I am a one-man team, but it also gives you early access to videos that will come on the channel. You'll also get exclusive videos, get to vote on polls, and so much more. And it's cheaper than ever, no longer having a tier system, so everyone on the Patreon gets access to all the content. So head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple to check it out. And a special thanks to my patrons, including Per Sandstorm, Moez Bendabi, Robert O'Brien, and Ed Saylor.